it. Size, shape, that's the exact belt-driven copy of it.
And when Barnes Wallis actually had the idea for the bouncing bomb, how did that idea go down at Bomber Command?
Well, according to Harris, he said that it was tried with the wildest description, like all these screwballs idea, they'll never work. And the thing is, he said at the end of the letter, for God's sake, give him a plane to go away and play with and let us get on and win the war. And the thing is that he never ever thought it would work. And I suppose sort of egg on the face at the end of it when it really did. You know, it was amazing. What
about some personal items? Do you have anything of a personal nature here?
Yeah, there's an ashtray that was given by the Gibson family. It's one that the guy had during the war. And along with the ashtray, there's a cigarette case that belonged to Ken Brown, who was one of the original pilots on the Dams raid. A tie that used to belong to David Shannon, who unveiled the plaque for us at the gate. And also we have part of the wireless operating equipment that George Chalmers, who was on Bill Townsend's crew, has signed for us and handed over to us for the exhibition here.
And it must bring you great pleasure to bring a collection like this together, literally on the Derwent Dam.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that Severn Trent allowed me to use this building, because it is home, really, to this type of collection. There's so much history in this valley, and to be able to bring it together, it gives me immense pleasure. And I think also now the most satisfying thing is that we do get so many wartime members and the families that do come to the dam, treat the exhibition and the memorial as their own, and that's exactly what I would have planned for it.
A very poignant collection. Now, most of us have one. If we're lucky, we've got two. But my next guest's habit of bagging a bargain means she has a choice of more than 100. Margaret Speake has been collecting evening bags and purses for 8 years, and this is the dazzling result of all that dedication. What inspired you, Margaret, to start collecting evening bags and purses?
Well, I think it would have to be this bag, which is from the early Art Deco period, around about 1918. And it's through my involvement in amateur dramatics, really, which set me off searching, looking for costumes and accessories. And we also mounted an exhibition round about 9 years ago, and this was given to me, and it was used in the exhibition. And I just thought it was so lovely that I thought, well, it would be a nice thing to collect.
Ones like this and many of the others, they must represent an awful lot of man-hours in terms of the beading and the putting on of sequins.
Yes, I'm sure they do. This particular one is made in Belgium, and the continental bags tended to be professionally made, whereas our own English ones, British ones, were handmade, or they could even buy kits and assemble the bags together themselves at home. So it was actually, you know, quite a pastime for ladies.
What are some of your earliest examples of purses?
Yes, it would be this French stocking purse made with cut steel beads. It would have cut steel sliders, and the coins would be inserted into a slit in the purse here. Gold coins would go in one end, and the silver coins would go in the other end of the purse. The Americans call them miser purses.
I must say, given the age of some of these purses and evening bags you've got, I know you'd rather I touch them by wearing these gloves. Some of them have deteriorated a little bit over the years.
Yes, unfortunately they have. This is one example which was and still is one of my favourites, but it has actually started to corrode. This is unavoidable, really, which is one of the reasons why we tend to use gloves when we are handling such things.
Oh, right, isn't it pretty inside? And some of them you get with their original content.
Yes, it's rather nice. It makes them really, really interesting when I can find a bag which has actually got contents. I mean, this has got a Progress whisk drive card, which the lady must have used, and I think she actually lost the game there. And then we have the little card. She attended the Regent Palace Hotel, and this is rather lovely.
That brings it all to life, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
This is very fine beadwork on this bag.
That's a beautiful bag. It's very evocative of the 1920s period, and it has a little label inside which says handmade in the USA by Joseph, and I'm hoping that perhaps this could be Joseph of Paris, who did make rather lovely, heavily beaded bags, and he made some for film stars.
All these along here have a very distinctive shape, don't they? What sort of period are they?
Yes, these are from the mid-20s up to the 1930s, and these have celluloid handles. This one has a celluloid handle, and that's a celluloid handle, which is a very early plastic.
These are beautiful too. Are these quite valuable?
Yes, they're probably one of the most expensive bags to buy today, because they are heavily beaded, and here again very evocative of that period, of the jazz period, and you know, the heavy beads and the tassels here. They're wonderful.
Which of all of these is your favourite?
Yes, this is my favourite. It's so lovely. It's from the early Art Deco period, and I just love that one.
It's very simple and pretty, isn't it? And I love the beading as well.
Yes.
They look so stunning here. Thank you very much indeed, Margaret, for bringing them in. Well, it's back to the workshop now to catch up with progress in the making of our wooden rocking horse. David Tyson is making an Arabian horse out of Canadian yellow pine. Yesterday the legs were attached to the body, and today the ribs and stomach are carved.
If you remember, this is how we finished off yesterday, with the coffee table effect. What we're looking to do today is to arrive at this stage, which is the centre block assembly. The coffee table is planed nice and flat. The centre body is picked, the chest block, and they are then placed in position. We then add the flank blocks to the centre body assembly. We then look at fitting the back block onto the centre body assembly. Well, the purpose of planing the back block is to make it nice and true when it fits onto the main body of the horse. And to achieve that, I use a plane, a scraper, and I actually plane and scrape enough of the material away to make it nice and true. If it's not straight or flat, I can then remove the excess wood by use of either the plane or the scraper. Once I'm reasonably happy that the back block has been planed true, I then take it over to the main body, which I have previously chalked. And the reason for putting chalk onto the main body is when I place the back block onto the main body, with a short manoeuvre of the back block, it will highlight any high points on the back block and the main body, and then I can take it away and scrape the excess material again. Once I'm happy that the back block has been planed, I then take the main body of the horse away, take it to the workmate and carve the main body of the horse. Right, what I'd like to do now is carve out the rib cage and the belly shape of the horse. As well as doing the belly carving using the spoke shave, I have to shape the chest part of the horse and the rear of the horse. I can't spoke shave this because I'd be there forever trying to spoke shave it out. So what I do, I use my mallet and my chisel, and I rough chisel out any excess timber, and then I would be ready for rasping. To arrive at the final process of the carving of the belly and the chest and the rear of the horse, I use a combination of a spoke shave and a scraper. This can take anything up to 2 days to complete the procedure, but I think you'll agree, at the end it's well worth it.
It certainly is, and tomorrow the head and neck are created. And if you'd like a chance to win one of David's horses, I'll be setting another Golden Year clue after the break. Get your thinking caps on. Also, inspired by our coastal location, Lisa Goddard tests her sea legs for a look at a collection of ropes and knots. And I'll be meeting a man who owns scores of antique babies' rattles. See you in a moment or two.
There have been cooking sauces in tins and in jars, but now there's a completely brilliant cooking sauce in the freezer. Make a Meal, a delicious new cooking sauce, fresh frozen by Birdseye. And being Birdseye, it's also got oodles of fresh frozen vegetables too.
What's all this in out of?
Nothing. Well, almost nothing.
Make a Meal, the new cooking sauce from Birdseye.
We unlocked some of the value of our home and bought this little beauty with the proceeds.
But we couldn't have done it without him.
The money from NPI's extra income plan meant I could really fix this place up warm and comfortable.
And it's nice to know that thanks to our friend here, we know we can stay here for the rest of our days.
If you're over 70 and own a home over £40,000, NPI's extra income plan could unlock just some or most of the value of your home to give you extra regular income, with the added option of a tax-free lump sum. And there are no monthly repayments. Call 0800 80 81 82.
It's so reassuring to know that the regular income that this little chap provides takes care of all my regular bills.
NPI's extra income plan. To receive a no-obligation information pack, call 0800 80 81 82.
I can predict the future, but I can plan for the future of my skin.
L'Oreal Plenitude Future E, the moisturizing fluid with pure vitamin E, known to be a powerful skin protector.
It's more than an ordinary moisturizer.
Your skin will feel smoother in just one day.
I can feel it.
Most importantly, pure vitamin E is delivered deeper into your skin, so it seems younger in just 1 week.
I can see it.
L'Oreal Plenitude Future E, the daily investment for the future of your skin.
L'Oreal, because I'm worth it, today and tomorrow.
Welcome back. Now, I think my next guest today may have a unique collection. If you know differently, do let us know. Dr. Roy Briggs collects babies' rattles, a hobby which started by accident when you happened to be at an auction looking for something else. Is that right?
That's quite right. I was looking for a spoon, and I saw this particular rattle, dated 1731 by Thomas Thornborough of Salisbury, and purchased it.
I must say, if I saw one of these at a sale, I'm not sure I'd know what it was. They are remarkably beautifully made, aren't they?
They are beautifully made and haven't, I would say, been recognised for what they really are until very, very recently.
Where have you found some of these and in what sort of condition?
Basically in pretty good condition, both in auctions and in shops and abroad. In auction, I found, for instance, this pair of very early rattles, tied together with an old piece of string, tarnished and filthy dirty, not again recognised for what they are. And they've turned out to be by Mary Tudor, dated 1555, marked with the splayed M mark, which is found in Jackson's, and the second one, a beautiful William and Mary one by Francis Garthorne, who is recorded as working in London in 1680 and is fully marked on the whistle mouthpiece.
They are made of top quality materials. What's the significance of the coral?
The coral has the significance of, first of all, a pacifier for a baby's tooth, and also has a medicinal function and a superstitious function. But it's the superstitious function that really has been the root of the coral being used in English rattles for the 300 years from the 16th century onwards.
We've got a pair of silver and coral rattles here. What do you think might have been the history of these?
Well, they were obviously made for siblings by the same maker, Albin Cox, and who knows what has happened to the recipients of those little things.
They must have been very privileged children that used these rattles. Were they to some extent status symbols, as we can perhaps see in that painting over there?
Well, they certainly were status symbols, both from the royal family downwards, and many of the Old Master paintings, including Edward VI, by Holbein shows that to a marked degree, and there are other ones. And certainly the nobility took over, as shown at Longleat, where there are two paintings of the two thin children, who were the daughters of the owners and the makers of Longleat, with their rattles round their necks.
You've now written a history of the English rattle, so is it the social history that fascinates you as much as the fine craftsmanship?
Social, religious and economic, and is a history of these islands.
What's this tiny little one here?
That is a little doll's rattle, and that's a gold doll's rattle for a doll, literally. But we can trace the maker of that to Charles Pickering, who worked in London in 1735.
What sort of price range would these be in if someone wanted to start collecting rattles?
Well, if they collected plated rattles, other than silver, it is very modest. It could be 5, 10 or 15 pounds. If they're on silver and they are fairly recent, within the century, 100 or so 150, unless, of course, it was an animal rattle or novelty rattle which was cherished by collectors, therefore it would be much higher.
And a boxed one like this, which looks so beautiful, gold enamel, and the coral as if it's never been chewed, how much would something like that be worth?
Well, that, of course, is unique. That is unique, and one can't really price that in contemporary terms. But a gold rattle usually is 10 times the price of a silver one.
Fascinating to see them. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, time now for you to put your memory cells to the test with this week's Golden Year competition. The prize for the winner, a beautiful rocking horse like this one, made by our craftsman for the week, David Tyson. All you need to do is guess which year I'm talking about from the following clue, ring up with your answer, and an heirloom of a horse like this could be yours. And don't forget there's a collector's lot teapot for one lucky runner-up. So can you tell me in which year China gave 2 giant pandas to London Zoo?
London has already taken to Ching Ching and Cha Cha, but will they take to London? Only time will tell.
Also in that year, President Nixon resigned over the Watergate scandal. Chrissy Everett and Jimmy Connors both won at Wimbledon, and the American jazz musician Duke Ellington died. If you think you know the year in question, do give me a call. The number is 0891 447777. There'll be one last clue tomorrow before lines close at midnight. A collection now which I'm sure will fascinate all of us who love the sea. Collector Des Pawson gets all strung up when it comes to knots and ropes, a fascination which has inspired him to open a museum dedicated to rope work. Lisa Goddard has been to meet him.
You've heard of the expression, money for old rope. Well, to knot tying expert and collector Des Pawson, old rope is worth far more than money.
There's a certain propperness about making the right knot for the right place that always gives me a satisfaction. And many knots have got a kind of sculptural form, so on an aesthetic basis, I find them very satisfying.
So, Des, what are you up to here?
I'm serving this rope. Worm and parcel with the lay, turn and serve the other way.
What does serving do exactly?
Serving makes a protection on the outside of the rope or wire, sometimes to give protection against chafe and sometimes to give something to hold on against. You'll see on the standing rigging on the ship here that a lot of that wire is heavily served. In fact, you can give me a hand because it's really a job for a man and a boy. You can pass the ball.
I can be the boy then.
You could, well, yes. And
how long has this been in use?
I've got illustrations from the 1690s of man and, that's it, keep on passing, of a man and a boy passing the rope using a serving tool very similar to the one that we're using here at the moment. And there's ice splices on a ship today. The same splices would have been done by the Vikings, exactly the same way. The rope's the same, so they finish it the same, and I think they probably use the same tools as well.
So tell me, how did you first become interested in knots?
Well, I was given a book when I was 7 years old that had a few simple knots in it, and for some reason at the age of 7 it just gelled with me, and I've never really looked back.
So there are knots and rope everywhere?
Well, everywhere, yes. Look, I mean this plant, Formium tenax, comes from New Zealand flax, and they make rope from the leaves. They planted it on the island of St. Helena and built a whole rope industry there as well. I've got some rope in the museum from that very plant grown on St. Helena. One of the most valuable things, and yet most ordinary looking piece, is this.
Bit of old rope.
It's a bit of old rope, literally. It's old rope. It's the old strands of a piece of rope broken right down and then plaited up.
So how old is this piece of old rope?
Well, this is about 110 years old. It was found in a store in Sweden, but the store belonged to a ship owner, and they know all about the ship that he owned and everything like this, so we actually know that this was made on the Josephina. Rope fenders are something that I've taken a great interest in because I make these professionally, and if you get the opportunity to see the old ones, perhaps one can learn a few lessons. This fender that I bought in auction in Ipswich here about 10 years ago is rather unusual because I've tracked down the maker, and he is a fourth generation of fender makers. They've been making rope fenders for 4 generations right back in the same manner. I mean, it's quite incredible that I've been able to identify exactly who made that item there, and it's been preserved, and I've now got the store, and I've got some photographs of one of the uncles making fenders, and all filling in the whole sort of story.
Are there any other museums like this anywhere?
As far as I'm aware, there is nowhere in the world that has a collection of rope work and rope working tools of this nature, and that's one of the reasons why I did it, because I think there should be.
So how long have people been knotting knots?
Probably about 6,000 years ago is when we've got the first examples of rope work. I mean, I've got here a piece of fishing net that's 1,650 years old, and it's using the same knot as is in a piece of fishing net that you can find on the beach here on the Suffolk coast.
How many knots do you actually know?
I suppose there's probably 200 or 300 that I could tie without great reference to the book, but there are thousands of knots. In the Ashley Book of Knots, it's got 3,500 knots in it, and I mean, there's lots of study to be done.
Lee's are getting roped in to do some work there. And don't forget, if you'd like more information about any of the collections shown on this week's programmes, you can find them on page 331 of Foretell or on the Collector's Lot website. That's all for today. Tomorrow I'll be meeting someone who loves Hornsey pottery and